Definitely believe the hype with this movie because the Odyssey is great. Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we are going to be talking about the Odyssey. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is an adaptation of the Odyssey. The story is set after the events of the Trojan War, and it follows Odysseus as he is trying to make his way back home to his wife and son. And on this journey, things continuously go horribly wrong, and Odysseus is basically having to go through hell to try and get back to his family. This is an epic, and Christopher Nolan does such a spectacular job at capturing the scope and scale of this story. It feels like a tale that is larger than life as it spans the course of years. And for a movie that's almost 3 hours long, they managed to cover so much ground with the runtime they do have, and they tell this large story that is truly riveting. When it comes to the cast, I think it is phenomenal. There is not a bad performance in the bunch. Everyone is on their A game and they deliver incredible performances. Matt Damon knocks it out of the park in this leading role. I think this is probably one of his best performances. There's so much nuance in his performance, and I think not only did he bring this character to life, but I saw him get lost in the role. I also gotta say, Anne Hathaway as Penelope was another standout for me. Every time she was on screen, she stole the show. I absolutely love what she brought to the film, and I was glued to the screen anytime she was present. Tom Holland is also great, and I loved getting to see him flex his acting chops here. Ever since I saw him in The Devil All the Time, I've been excited to see what other roles he does outside of Spider-Man. He's so good here. I think he has so much potential as an actor, and I can't wait to see how his career continues to evolve and what other projects he picks moving forward. Robert Pattinson also crushes it in this antagonistic role. His on-screen presence is very effective and works perfectly for this story. And I gotta say, Zendaya and Elliot Page both have smaller roles in this film, but they're such shining stars in this movie, and they make their limited screen time have such a lasting impact. I thought Elliot Page's character was especially one of the most interesting characters in the movie, and he did such an excellent job here. When it comes to the visuals, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, so you know it's going to look top tier, but this movie looks especially good. I loved the usage of practical effects throughout this film. Despite it being a fantasy story, they managed to make it feel grounded and real. It felt like they really brought these fantasy elements to life. And you know the effects are working when there wasn't a single moment throughout the entire runtime that I found myself thinking, oh, that looks like CGI. I think everything blended together perfectly, and I couldn't differentiate what was what. The cinematography is gorgeous. I didn't see this in IMAX, but I can't imagine how good it looks on an IMAX screen. And when it comes to the action, I was pleasantly surprised. This is definitely Nolan's best usage of action in any of his movies. It is very violent and brutal. They definitely utilize that R rating, but at the same time, the way they use the camera to capture the action that is taking place on screen, you can actually clearly see what is going on. It's not a lot of jump cuts forcing you to piece what's going on together. It is all gorgeously framed in a very haunting way, so you can see what's happening to these people even if you don't want to. I will say, I think for the most part, this film is edited very well. The story is told out of order, and you are getting the story told to you through various characters' perspectives, whether it be from Odysseus himself or people that knew Odysseus or knew of Odysseus and the stories behind the legend. And it does make for some interesting narrative moments because there are sequences where you are getting to see what happened told through one character's perspective, and then when another character tells you what they experienced in that same exact moment, you get to see it in a totally different lens, and it works really well. And for the most part, the pacing is rock solid. I do think the first 15 to 20 minutes does feel a little rushed and does feel a little disjointed. And then I will say at the end of the second act going into the final act of the film, it does feel like it kind of slows down a bit and starts to drag just a little. But I will say for a film that is almost 3 hours long, it definitely doesn't feel like it. There wasn't a single instance where I felt the urge to check the time. Overall, I'm really impressed with The Odyssey, and it's one that I really am looking forward to checking out a second time because I have a feeling I'm going to like it even more upon repeat viewings. There's a lot to unpack here and a lot to take in, so I think watching it a second time definitely could up my score a little bit. I don't think this is Christopher Nolan's best movie. I still think that would be Oppenheimer, but this is easily in my top top 5. I would probably put it at that 3 or 4 spot. So definitely check out the Odyssey because it is so worth watching, and I'm going to be giving the Odyssey a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And have you seen the Odyssey yet? If so, what are your thoughts on the movie? I'd love to know.